This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Hey, Mark Wayne, it's always good to see you. It's always good to have you on the show. But as you and I have talked about offline, obviously, we're kind of in a weird place right now as a country. And you and I have talked a little bit here and there since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of thoughts. There's been think pieces and podcasts and episodes of shows and late night hosts. Everyone's been taking their shots and making their opinions known. But I just want you to give your message to my audience about really the impact that Charlie Kirk had, especially for the Trump administration, and your thoughts about the assassination. Then we'll just move forward from there.
Well, that's a lot of questions there. You got just throw it out there. It's like
I just want to sneak them all in, just in case you forget one. You can just pick them out here or there.
No jokes, just right in there. I mean, I've even got a black T-shirt on. I look better than you do.
Well,
I mean,
it just didn't feel well. We can take a vote. We'll take a poll to see how that goes.
Yeah. So listen. First of all, for Charlie's impact on the election, it can't be overstated. I'm not saying understated. It can't be overstated, his impact he had. He did something that Republicans didn't think we could do. He took the younger generation and changed their way of thinking, not by trying to manipulate them, but trying to get them to think. Not by having a fiery speech like AOC and fight and, burn them down because they're socialist and all this stuff, they're fascist. But he did it with words that is hard for a lot of us to express, and that's love. And people go, well, whatever. I mean, he's decisive. What was decisive about him, right? I mean, he went up, sat at a tent and on the college campus, gave a microphone to the opposition, and he had open debate with them. And he would openly talk about his faith of Jesus Christ. He would talk about his traditional marriage and encourage people to get married and have as many kids as they could. And then if you wanted to debate political stuff, he could go all the way back to the Founding Fathers, the Federalist Papers. He could debate the Constitution or the current law that was just passed. And he could recite it without notes. One of the smartest individuals I ever met, and he could articulate it in a way that wasn't coming across as condescending, wasn't coming across as as his opinion. He gave the facts behind it, and that's why it was so hard to debate Charlie, because when you were debating him, he knew the issue. And he could recite it. And I don't know where he read, because he was always communicating with people. I don't know where he had time to actually comprehend and read all this, but he must be able to speed read through things and retain it better than any human being I've ever met in my life, because he could talk about any author and recite scriptures and recite, exactly word for word the Federalist Papers or writings of any of our founding fathers. And so the way he did it was in a thoughtful way. And his crowd just continued to grow. And he wasn't running for office. He wasn't doing anything. He was just going to places that elected officials had overlooked. And when he came in after the, devastating election results in 2020, he was the first one wanting the president to run again. And for re-election. The president and I had that conversation. Actually, Jim Jordan, I was the last person to actually talk to the president in the Oval Office before he left. And he said, why would I run again? I've already won 2 elections. He wasn't going to run again. But Charlie continued to talk to him, and then the left wouldn't leave him alone. And Charlie said, I can win the younger generation for you. President Trump didn't even think that was possible. He's like, how can you do that? He says, we can do it. I'm telling you, there's a whole hunger of younger people out there that want the truth. And all we have to do is just give them it. Just give them the facts. They fight with feelings and emotions. We can fight with facts. And that was what he said. They fight with feelings and emotions. We can fight with facts. And he did it. I mean, he absolutely 100% did it. No one worked harder than Charlie, other than the president of the United States, to get President Trump back in office, and he did it with so much energy. So he made a huge impact on the election and midterm elections too. He was going to make a big impact. Now, fast forward to where we're going with Charlie. He never wanted to have a legacy that wasn't what he was about. And I'm not making this comparison, so don't think I'm comparing him to Jesus Christ. I'm not. Jesus Christ died for his sins, like his pastor said, died for his sins. Means Charlie's sins died for our sins, so we can have eternal life. That's Jesus. Okay, so I'm not comparing the two, but I want to just make the comparison about legacy, the difference between legacy and message. Jesus Christ didn't leave a legacy. He left a message. He left a word. He left a following. Jesus Christ, when he was crucified and rose again, it wasn't about his past life and for us to necessarily worship him. It was the Father above and the grace that he gave and the teachings he left. The example he gave us as being the only perfect human to ever walk this earth, and came to be flesh to lead us, right? So when you talk about Charlie, people say, well, what legacy do you want him to have? Charlie made it very clear he wanted to make sure that he was a Christian first. That's who he wanted to be. He wanted to be a Christian. And then what he started was a movement to openly talk about your faith, when the world at the time was trying to crush it by saying Christians were bigots, Christians were hateful, Christians were closed-minded, Christians, there was no place for them. I mean, it was traditional family values are out the door, and that was exactly what our founding fathers, by the way, warned us about, and that's exactly what Ronald Reagan warned us about. That if the moral fabric of this country dies, then this country dies. And I think Charlie understood that, not from a political perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. And I mean that sincerely, because his desire was to love everybody. I mean that sincerely. And there isn't anybody that was friends with Charlie that can say they put more into Charlie's life than Charlie put in your life. Charlie led everybody, and he was 31 freaking years old. I mean, how do you do that? He gave us an example to be a husband. He gave us an example how to be a father. He gave us an example how to be a leader in your organization. He gave us an example how to speak politics. He gave us an example how to speak your faith. I mean, he was just bold about it. And so his legacy is his message moving forward, to continue that. And people are receiving it in numbers that you couldn't even imagine. Last night, yesterday, Andrew, his producer, who is a close friend, and I've become friends with Andrew lately. I was acquainted with Andrew because of Charlie. Since this assassination, Andrew and I are developing a friendship. And he put out a thing yesterday on X that just give you some numbers. Turning Point USA had 9,000 chapters in college campuses and 1,100 chapters on high school campuses on September 10th. After Erica spoke for the first time and addressed the world, really, immediately they had 15,000 requests for Turning Point USA. So it doubled almost. By the next day, it had doubled, and the numbers continue to climb. And going into the services last Sunday, which was a service, it's the first time I can actually said we actually had a celebration of life. I know that's kind of like the trend that everybody is going to instead of having a funeral. They have a celebration of life, but it feels like a funeral when you go. That Charlie's was a celebration of life. It was one of the most awesome emotional experiences that I've had, and I mean that sincerely. But going into that, there were 62,000 requests. Last night, Charlie put out, and he said there was over 100,000, but I want to say it's like 112,000 or something. I may be wrong, but I know it was over 100,000 requests now that came in since the services. And he said effectively now we have requests to be on every high school campus in the United States. I want to point this out. A couple of weeks before Charlie's assassination, that's what he said his request was. He wanted to be on every high school campus in America, and there's roughly 23,000. So now, not only does he have all 23,000 now, but now he's on other high school campuses around the world, and that impact is unmeasurable. And it's going to be, you and I may not even see the total impact of it, but when we're too old to actually flex our muscles in about 20 years, we're going to see a real impact on it, because this generation X, this generation Z, and the generation Y, and the generations coming before, they were lied to by the left, by the radical left, and they bought into it. And it didn't change the outcome or the trajectory, because people can only live in hate so long before it erodes, and that hate requires gasoline to constantly be being thrown on it, and it's just you get tired of it. And Charlie's message was so different that people, the college campuses, started swarming towards him. But then for the whole world to see the assassination of him, when just minutes before he was talking about the gospel, and he was showing love and respect to people, and in the middle of a question being asked about transgender violence, I'm paraphrasing that, but that's what the question was. He gets assassinated, and it woke that generation up faster than anyone could imagine. Because these aren't corporations that's putting up Turning Point USA chapters. These are high schools and college campuses that are reaching out and asking for Turning Point USA, for a Turning Point USA chapter. Now the question is what do you and I do with that? Because we're not in college, we're not in high school. What is the generation that? What role do we play in that? Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that, because I've wondered aloud, like, okay, 100,000 new campuses of high schools and colleges and all those different things. Well, there's one thing to get knowledge to people, but the other part is wisdom. Knowledge can be gained by anybody, but wisdom and discernment is something different. And so that's why I think we have this very interesting moment, because Mark Wayne, I've said this a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it even in future interviews. One of the first thoughts I had after Charlie was assassinated is I felt like a Rubicon was crossed in a degree, especially because we saw so many people come out and celebrate the murder of someone. Now, again, yes, he was a father and a husband and all those things, but there are awful, evil people that are fathers and husbands. But at the same time, he was such a good man. He wanted his enemies to be on his side of things. But these demons that are coming out and celebrating that he's dead and celebrating the tears of his widow, I feel like something's been broken. Like the George Floyd riots in the summer and all of that, it's like we made it through. Like I don't think the country's on the brink of disaster necessarily, but it feels like the gloves are off in this war against good and evil. What do you think?
I don't. I'll push against that a little bit. I don't think so. God said, the word says that he will expose the man's heart. Right?
And we're seeing it.
Or what you intended to be silent, what you intended to be covered up, what you intended to be in the darkness of night. It says that the Lord will expose it for all to see. What's happened is because these individuals now are celebrating the life of a good Christian, moral man that wasn't speaking hatred or playing with fire. Those that are come out and celebrate, it's exposed them, and it's turned the ones that were following them away from them faster than Charlie, than you, than anyone could have ever done. It's exposed who they are, and people are choosing sides, but most are not choosing to stay with that side. They don't want to be associated with that. They don't want their name to be associated. Their heart can't take it. The Lord built us and built us to be good. Now, we're evildoers because we're sinful, but God built us, intended us to be good, just like he intended us to walk forward, not backwards. He intended us to love him, but he couldn't force us to love him. He intended us to have a brain to be able to make our own decision, but he opened our eyes and gave us wisdom to be able to see truth if we chose to see the truth, because he was the way. He's the truth and the way, right? And the Lord is the one who gives us peace and joy and spirit of love, and happiness and rest. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. There's a complete line that has been drawn because of this. And people that had the seed of the Lord planted in them because they've heard the gospel before, they were raised that way, but they chose to go a different way. Or they had a friend that took them to church one day, or they went to church camp because they wanted to go away for the summer and they just went to go hang out, but the seed was planted. The roots are starting to take hold. And I mean that sincerely. So there has to be a division, not a division of war. It's a division of, are you going to be with good or evil, right? Which one are you going to go with? And the people have woke up by it. Now, to go back to the question of what role do you and I play with this, we have two roles. One, we shepherd it. It's not on us to lead it, though. And people look at me and go, what? It's not on us to lead it. Charlie was leading it at 18 years old. There's a lot more Charlies out there than what we know, but we're to shepherd it. It's like Paul writing to the churches, encouraging them to root out the evil, encourage them not to allow the manipulators and the Pharisees to come in that's trying to draw in siphon or a division between the two, to keep true and keep honest and keep pure to the way of the Lord. Charlie's message is on us, one, to make sure that we're shepherding it and keeping it in the right direction. Give the individuals who's going to lead it in these chapters counsel, wise counsel, but give them the courage to continue to speak and move forward, and give them the financial support too. And there's ways that we can do that. You can help financially. And I'm not raising the money for Turning Point USA. They're raising plenty of money. But people ask, what do you do? Well, Turning Point USA is financially helping the sponsors or sponsor these chapters, but more than anything, sponsor the chapter in your backyard. I mean, give them the finances, give them the resources. You're not talking about $1 million. You're talking about, probably a couple $100 a month that they could run the whole chapter on. I'm not kidding. So not one person has to do that. But we need to encourage these individuals. We need to be like youth pastors and youth leaders in these Turning Point USA chapters. And I mean this sincerely. Youth groups churches need to be stepping up and sponsoring these to some degree, right? Because that's our role. If we're going to help Erica make it bigger and better, 10 times bigger and better than ever, and we all want to cheer, then we got to put our feet down and walk. And you go, where do you get started? Get started. I don't know. I don't know. Like, how do you start this podcast? I don't know. I started it. How did it grow? I don't know. I worked it every day.
Hey guys, real quick, you may have noticed a lot of companies out there that are advertising and marketing that they're American companies, but guess what, guys? All of their manufacturing and all of their jobs are overseas, right? These companies are manufacturing overseas in order to increase their profit margins, but they're allowing globalism to put America and Americans behind. And I've been wanting to partner with an American company, with really all across the board American companies that prioritize American workers, their families, and keep their word. And guys, I've been working with this company for so long. We're going on, I think, 4 or 5 years now. That's why I want to remind you that we are partnered with Origin. Origin is an apparel company based in Maine, and what do they make? They make, guys, literally the best jiu-jitsu gis on the planet, and they are the only jiu-jitsu gis that are made completely in America with all American products and completely with American hands. And I use the Rift 2.0 and the Nano Pearl gis exclusively now. They also make jeans. That is their best seller. They have very, very awesome stretchy jeans, and they also have work jeans and bootcut jeans. They make amazing hunting and outdoor gear. They offer handmade leather boots to include boots, steel toe boots. My personal favorites are the Whiskey Maine mock toe boots in a natural wedge sole. I wear those around all the time. And they also make great workout clothes. They have everyday pants and shirts. They're getting more into kind of men's casual stuff. They have indestructible hoodies. They're launching new apparel all the time. It's just an amazing, amazing company. So guys, if you haven't already, you need to check them out and support a company that supports Americans. Try Origin out today by going to originusa.com. That's originusa.com. Use the promo code Undaunted to get 10% off your order. Again, that's originusa.com. Promo code Undaunted to get 10% off your order. One, I think we've got a lot of opportunities here, and again, the dust has yet to settle from this. But I mean, the images that we saw from the event, from the memorial over the weekend, Erica forgiving her husband's assassin, like being a picture of the gospel. I mean, I don't know how you can watch that and not just weep. And
brother,
the music. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, the whole time she was saying it, I'm sitting there, I'm sitting right behind Tulsi and the whole cabinet, and all of us saw where she was going with that. And I honestly, I was thinking, surely not. I mean, I was getting emotional, like I was getting goosebumps. I was like, surely not. And when she just forced it out, I mean, she forced it out. That wasn't natural. There's nothing natural about that. She forced it out. You heard the entire. You heard a gasp all at once by 100,000 people in that auditorium. That's why I said it was the most moving. It was, I can't even describe it. I don't even know. You hear about people like that, but I've never witnessed it before. And the whole world witnessed it. That's grace. I don't even know.
Mark Wayne, I've seen videos of people at a sentencing hearing for somebody that killed one of their family members going and forgiving them. I heard about after Dylan Roof went in and shot up a black church, specifically a racist killing to kill black people. Within 24 hours, surviving congregants of that church, one by one, went before Dylan Roof, through a screen or whatever, and forgave him for killing their family members. But, I said this about the memorial. It was the biggest gathering where a gospel message was put out in the history of humanity. Well over 100 million people were viewing the stream, according to TPUSA. The clips that have been made and sent out millions of times, even just since Sunday. But for you, I'm just curious, being in that room, because obviously it's significant. It had Super Bowl inauguration level security. It was treated with a tremendous amount of security, but also reverence. But you do have basically the entire cabinet there. You have Donald Trump there. Like, you have the vice president there. You have Secretary of State. You have all these people there. What was the mood like? Because it's one thing, like when George Floyd died, a bunch of politicians had to pretend they cared about a derelict criminal who was a predator in his local community. They had to just pretend. But these were people that, for the most part, knew Charlie. And if they didn't know him personally, they knew the impact of what he was doing and the movement he was having with the youth. So what did it honestly feel like? What were the conversations like amongst all those folks, including you?
We all sat together, and it was the entire cabinet was there. I mean, the entire cabinet was there. The only people who wasn't there was the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the difference between a joint session and this is that the Democrats wasn't there, and not all the members were there, and you didn't see we didn't see our Supreme Court justice there in the cabinet or in the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But the mood when his pastor took the stage to open it up, he set the tone.
Yeah.
Now, people were talking, people were communicating, people were laughing, but there was a spirit of love through the whole place. And then one by one, you saw the cabinet members get up and talk about our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ. And I sit there and I watched it, and I thought how different this would have been a year ago. because there wasn't a single person in that last cabinet that would have spoke bold about their faith. I'm not saying they're not Christians. That's not my judgment. That's on the Lord to judge that. I'm not making those judgments, because people would say I'm not a Christian either, because I tell other people I'm the worst hypocrite in the world. Probably I'm one mistake away from being exposed to the guy that I guess I truly am. But to hear the entire cabinet that spoke, not everybody spoke from the cabinet, but I'm just saying everyone that spoke, from the president to the vice president to even Don Jr. speaking about the scriptures, and then having Marco Rubio preach a message, and having Pete Hegseth preach a message, having Tulsi Gabbard preach a message about the love and respect of Jesus Christ and the grace that he gives us. I just thank God that his timing is perfect, because he says his timing is perfect. We get impatient and we don't see it. We don't see what's happening around us. But think of the difference in that service if it would have been, if this same thing would have happened a year ago. Think of the difference in the way Washington, D.C. is looked at today. Think of the people that's running this country from a year ago to where we are today. Think of that, because you got to see it on full display. People, one after another, talking about talking about Jesus. I mean, that's a simple way to say it. Talking about Jesus, talking about the love of Jesus, talking about the grace of Jesus, talking about the salvation of Jesus Christ. Talking, I mean, how many times did you hear people say, you need to get right with the Lord? If you don't know him, get right with the Lord. When the pastor gave the altar call, I mean, literally gave the altar call is what I'm calling. I'm an old Pentecostal guy. When he gave the altar call and said, if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, your personal Savior, can you stand to your feet right now? I don't know how many people stood up. I don't know. There was thousands that stood up across that place. How many more around the world do we not know? And that's the mood. That was the place. I mean, during praise and worship, when they were playing praise and worship songs, people were raising their hands. I mean, people were raising their hands. Down at the cabinet members were raising their hands. I mean, the people in the VIP section was raising their hand. Up in the stands, people were right there just praising the Lord. I mean, it was you can't even describe it. And this was all honoring the memory of a guy who was 31 years old. I mean, the impact of that. I'll just leave you with this, and then we can go wherever you want to talk about. But my mom sent me a text message, and my mom's probably texted me 5 times since the invention of text. And she sent me a text message that I had to scroll up. And by the way, for anybody that knows me that has my cell phone number, if you send me a text that I got to scroll up on, I'm not reading it. I'm just telling you, I'm not reading it. In fact, if it takes up the entire screen, I'm not reading it. If you need to text something that big, pick up the phone and call me, right? That's when the text message should say, call me. But my mom sent me this big old long text message that I had to scroll up twice on. And she said to me, paraphrasing it, she said, Mark Wayne, I know you're hurting because he was your friend, and I've seen you on TV, and I can see it. And I've dealt with a lot. And she said, I know you dealt with a lot of death in your life, because I have a lot. And death doesn't bother me like you would think. It just doesn't. My wife says I'm cold hearted or something. I don't know. It just typically doesn't bother me. It's just like, yeah, this sucks, but I still have the memory of you. Let's embrace your loved ones and move on. That's a callous way to say it. I'm sorry, but it's the way I am. But she said, I just want to point something out to you. Why it was a senseless killing. You got to realize this: his spirit knew he had a short time. His spirit knew he had a short time. He was built for 31 years. And she said, just like somebody else was built for 33 years. And I thought, okay. At that point, things changed my mindset. I was like, okay. All right.
And if you believe in the sovereignty of God, you believe that our days are numbered. Like they are exactly numbered, and there's no surprise from God's perspective. So we'll wrap up just talking about this, because I think we've a lot of people memorializing the different things. Then there's the practical side of the investigation. Yeah, you're good. Let me make sure it's still recording. All right, looks like it's still recording. All right. So one thing that I think is important to discuss as well is obviously hang on, let me make sure. It says recording, but yeah, it's still recording. Let me make that note. All right, this will be the last one. So Mark Wayne, with the memorials and with all the other different things, there's still the reality of the investigation. Because here we are years later and we can look back. We don't really know a whole lot about the Las Vegas shooter that shot up a Jason Aldean concert. We don't know a whole lot about the shooter that tried to kill President Trump on the campaign trail. And with this shooter now, like obviously he's still alive. Hopefully he stays alive so he can face justice and then be killed for his crimes. But the investigation seems like it should be widened because there are so many people online that seem to have September the 10th in Utah circled on their calendars. And they seem to, this underbody of people, this undercurrent of people, I guess, seem to have an idea that something was going to go down that day. So the idea that this one young man decided that he was going to do this and no one else had any idea it was going to happen, didn't help him with it, seems a little bit foolhardy, and I don't want to play into the conspiracy games of a lot of things because a lot of people are talking conspiracies about where the shot came from, but there are some things that stink about this situation, but that a real good investigation could clear up. So, what are your thoughts on where the investigation stands now and where it'll go?
Yeah, so people love to chase theories. There's theories as soon as it came out. I had a theory, but the fact is, on a case like this, when our IC community was monitoring what was going on, we knew he had threats. The IC world was working with his detail. The more people that know, the more people have a tendency to tell somebody else. And I'm not saying this is the case here, but it appears to be this is the most dangerous people you deal with are the lone wolves. The ones that just have it in their head. We don't think for any reason. I was talking to Cash about this just the other day. Cash Patel. He said we 100% believe his live-in person didn't have a clue, had no idea. Well, if his live-in person didn't know, then. And I'm not trying to be politically correct. I just don't know what the correct term is. Okay, so that's why I'm saying person.
His gay, trans, furry boyfriend. There you go. There's your politically correct.
Yeah, whatever you want to say. Phrase. But they're saying that they don't know. They don't believe she knew. And so all these people about saying he had to have help. I don't know. The lone wolf ones are the ones that always just surprise you. Because if 2 people know, typically 6 people know. And if 6 people know, typically 12. And if 12 people know, 24 knows pretty quick. And the number doubles really quick. Because someone always tells someone else because it's their trusted friend. And someone finds out. And you hear chatter someplace, online someplace. And someone tips someone off. So in this case, it appears now the investigation will go thorough. It'll be very thorough. And if anybody's there, it'll be exposed. I promise you, there's a lot of motivated people. When you got the president of the United States addressing the world from the Oval Office the night of the assassination, I promise you, everybody woke up and said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Guaranteed. We're going to get to the bottom of it. So we will get to the bottom of it. But it appears that this person is that the hardest ones in the world to prevent in the lone wolf.
All right. Well, we're definitely in a different country than we were just a couple of weeks ago, but I agree with you. We should shepherd the legacy of Charlie Kirk as we move forward. Mark Wayne, thanks again for coming on. We'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.